On the left is a woman named Activist Mommy. On the right is Kirk Cameron. He is a famous child actor from the movie or from the TV show Growing Pains. I've never watched it, but after he left Growing Pains, he could not shut up about Jesus. And you know what? That's fine. That's fine. That's great. Love Jesus. All for it. But it's not just Jesus that he loves. It's Donald Trump and all this other crazy shit that he mixes into the whole thing. So anyway, he uses Jesus as an excuse to hate other people. That's like one of my big problems with him. Let's give this a listen, see what he had to say for himself. It's absolutely wild. Also, on the left, Elizabeth Johnston, Activist Mommy. I have a back catalog of things that she's said that are, I don't even know what word to use, just crazy, absolutely nuts. Let's listen and see what these two nutter butters of epic proportions have to say to each other.
And I wanted to go read it at a public story hour, just like the drag queens were doing.
Oh my God, they're doing this intro here.
Well, I was denied by over 50 woke libraries. These are librarians or boards of libraries that have been...
Yeah, I don't even think that's true, actually. I don't believe that. I've seen video of him showing up to these library events and reading books to children, like, all the time. I don't know of any library that denied him access. And he would have posted that all over the place. Not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I don't have any evidence of it. I don't trust him as far as I can throw him. So anyway, Drag Queen Story Hour is a performance. It's not like, they're not even trans most of the time. They're just people who like put on outfits like a clown and entertain people. That's what it's about. It's just fun. But, these people tried to whip people into a blood frenzy over stupid shit. So let's keep listening here.
Mind virus that prefers for men in fishnet stockings and high heels and skirts to read stories to children. And
yeah, it's fun. It's just entertaining. It's just like, it's like a party. I don't understand what his hang up is with this. And honestly, how many of those events even take place? This is kind of part of the conservative Christian tactic. This is what they do. People like Kirk Cameron specifically. They try to frame something up that the left is doing that's bad. And they find things that pretty much every single person can agree is bad, right? Like, for example, if teachers were to teach your kids that being trans is preferable to being like cis or straight, being gay is preferable to being straight, that would be bad, right? I don't want that. I don't want teachers teaching kids that they should be gay. But that's not what's happening. See, that's the problem. That's the hang up here. Kirk Cameron and other evangelical extremists like him create fictitious scenarios that nobody is doing, that nobody wants, no one stands for, and framing it up like the left is doing this and pushing for it, and they absolutely insist that kids be read to by trans people. Again, not happening at a library, so that the kids will be convinced that being trans is preferable to being cis. Not happening. I don't like, this is part of it. Like, just defending it is part of this whole strategy. Like, I shouldn't even have to defend what's happening with drag queens. I should just say what he's portraying isn't happening. It's not going on. He's fear-mongering as a method of propagandizing, of twisting the situation around to be something that it's not. Anyway, let's keep listening.
Shape and warp their little minds.
Welcome to the Elizabeth Johnston podcast. This episode is brought to you by donation.
Nope. All right, let's jump forward. Okay, I think it starts maybe right here.
Traditional biblical and American values into public spaces is contagious and giving hope to families everywhere. Kirk, welcome.
Don't you love it how they're accusing these two? I mean, they're accusing the left of spreading the virus, the woke mind virus, to everywhere. It's contagious. Like, literally a sentence later, claim that they, the right, Elizabeth Johnston and Kirk Cameron, are trying to spread their mind virus to people. That's how they're framing it. So is it right to indoctrinate people or not? The answer is yes, in their mind. It is right to indoctrinate people, but only with your religious beliefs and nothing else. Being in the United States has kind of built a kind of morality into us, right? There are shared moral values among Americans, British, Canadians, and some other groups. For example, you go to an ice cream store, you pay for an ice cream. As the guy's handing you the ice cream, it falls. Whose fault is it? Both. It's both of your fault. The moral expectation is that you will be given a replacement ice cream. The company will bear the burden of that cost. You just assume that's what's going to happen, right? That's part of like the moral foundation that was built into, our country. That's you don't even think about it. It's just part of how things operate. Part of our moral kind of framework that we all adhere to is the idea that everything will be fair. Either indoctrination for children is good for everybody or it's bad for everybody generally. Either it's okay to force kids to read certain materials every day that are brainwashing them, or it's bad to do that. And as a society, we all agree that's bad. We don't want that. But Kirk Cameron, Elizabeth Johnston, and other churchgoer extremists like this make an exception for their belief system. They think it's okay to indoctrinate if it's them doing the indoctrinating. That's really my hang up here. That's what it's all about. There's like a deep hypocrisy in this whole subject. Anyway, let's keep listening to her here.
Giving hope to families everywhere. Kirk, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thanks. I'm doing great. It's nice to see you. Thank you for having me on the show. Love what we're talking about today.
Yeah, totally. Most of us know you obviously from the incredibly popular show Growing Pains. And
Never seen it.
how long were you on Growing Pains, Kirk?
Let's see. We were on for about 6 years, about six and a half seasons.
Okay. This episode is brought to you by Donate.
Oh my God, dude, how many ads does she have? I don't put this many ads in shit. Donatio. Now I know, or Donatio, I don't know. Now I know what not to support.
And join the Donatio family today. Do
Donatio, I was close.
business, do good, Donatio. If you'd like to promote your business or organization on the
Oh my God, please.
Elizabeth Johnston podcast, please reach out to us at admin@elizabethjohnston.org. We would love to work with you.
My most memorable moment on Growing Pains, of course, there's lots of funny scenes and lots of practical jokes that we played on each other as a cast. But I remember meeting my wife, who played Mike Seaver's girlfriend on the show. And it was there on the set that this beautiful actress arrived, and she was just sweet and kind and beautiful. And I thought, boy, I'd really love to get to know her, but I shouldn't get my hopes up because she's so far out of my league. I mean, I don't even stand a chance. And then I noticed that she was.
Well, she was obviously not out of his league because she was actually cast to be in his league, right? Like a bunch of people sat around a table and discussed which person would fit the best to his like personality and his character and his looks and everything. I think that's kind of funny.
Wearing a necklace with a cross on it and listening to a band that not many people knew of back in the day was called Petra.
Ah, so she's responsible.
Petra was this amazing Christian rock band. And I love Petra because I had just come to faith in Christ. And so when she told me what it was, we started listening together. I asked her out. She said yes.
Ew.
Eventually, we got married. 35 years later, we have 6 kids and a grandbaby. And
oh my God, 6 kids, dude. That's a lot of kids.
And best memory ever.
Wow, that's incredible. And Chelsea is your wife's name. And some of your children are biological and some are adopted, right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's right. We actually adopted our first 4 children. So they weren't an afterthought. They were our primary thought.
Wow.
And then
Wow, dude. Adopted their first 4 children.
after our adoption adventure, and my wife is also an adopted baby.
Oh,
Yeah, that makes sense.
okay. Wow.
We had 2 kids after that, the old-fashioned way. So we've got a big full house. We've now got a little granddaughter because our daughter, Anna, just had a little baby.
Wow. That is fabulous. And I know that you're fighting for
I know somebody who's like kind of in the atheist realm who is who's adopted, and it was a good experience for him, I guess. Like it wasn't bad. For a lot of people it's really bad. It turns out really badly, but no, it was good. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. I guess a mixed bag.
that you're fighting for your kids and so many of the things that you are actively promoting right now. Kirk, back in 2018, when Puppet shows and craft days got replaced by drag queen story hours in public libraries.
Oh, please, dude. Again, I say this is not happening in any significant amount. Like, this is super rare. And either way, who cares? Let them do this drag queen story hour thing. Like, why is it any of your business? Just let people live their lives. And if parents want to take kids to some event, they can.
I started raising awareness about this, and drag queen story hours were really still getting away with going into communities quietly, covertly.
And inviting people to their events. And also, I reiterate, it's just a show. It's not even about like the trans community. This is not happening. They are living in their heads where trans people are trying to indoctrinate children and all of that. I'm not even going to bother defending this stuff because it's not real what they're saying. If the things that they were like framing up were happening, I would be unhappy. Maybe I would think about it long and hard, but my nickname in high school, but that's just not happening. It's just not.
But now they are saying the quiet part out loud, and in some instances, even admitting that their intentions are the grooming of our children. Tell us about what you are doing with See You at the Library Day.
Well, See You at the Library began for me and Brave Books a couple Christmases ago when I wrote a book called As You Grow. It's all about growing in the fruit of the Spirit, the sweet fruit of love and joy and peace and kindness.
I read that on my Owen Morgan, on my Owen Morgan Reads YouTube channel. Unfortunately, I haven't uploaded to that in a while. I just don't have the time, but I love the idea of like reading a book consistently and talking about the stuff that's in it and everything. I think it's really cool. One of these days when I get more time, I'll probably continue it. But, if you want to see the whole book, I break it down there.
And I wanted to go read it at a public story hour, just like the drag queens were doing. Well, I was denied by over 50 woke libraries.
And he didn't give us a list, right? I mean, I would love to know who these woke libraries were. And besides, it's not libraries being woke. It's him being an extremist either way. It's him being absolutely nuts and like refusing to let people just do their thing and be normal and whatever. He wants to indoctrinate. He's trying to make a point that one side indoctrinates, so he's going to also. That's not what's happening. No one's indoctrinating except for him. That's it. So it makes sense to me that people would kind of want to, oh God, I forgot about this, that people would kind of want to prevent him from going into libraries and hosting events and stuff for free at the very least. That shit's expensive. Kirk would fail a $100,000 challenge to not be a scumbag. I know. He couldn't do it. And he wouldn't do it if he could.
These are librarians or boards of libraries that have been infected by the woke mind virus that prefers for men in fishnet stockings and high heels and skirts to read stories to children and shape and warp their little minds. Well, when they denied me, I went to the news, told some friends, Tucker Carlson and others, and put these people on notice that they were violating the Constitution. I'd be prepared to assert my rights in court. We showed up to the libraries that said that nobody would come to listen.
Which libraries said that? Which ones said, no one's going to listen to you anyway? I'm sorry, man. I don't believe the bullshit that he spews constantly. And if libraries want to, let me rephrase, if Kirk Cameron wants to hold events at a library to read a book, I really don't care. Even if it's the Bible, I don't think I really care. I mean, I would have to think about it. I would be willing to hear arguments against it, but it's an event that somebody else is paying for, Kirk Cameron, not through public tax dollars. And it's an optional thing. Like, people can choose to attend this or not. It's not like you're being forced to, like you're in school or something. It's not like that. So I'm sorry, man. I'm having trouble believing that this is happening. I'm having trouble believing that this is a problem or whatever. He's just not trustworthy at all. That's the point here.
And we're welcomed by over 3,000 people at these libraries. And this happened in D.C. and New York.
3,000 people? What library can hold 3,000 people? Can the New York Library or the New York City Library, can that even hold that many people?
York and Los Angeles and San Francisco. And it culminated in a national event that was our take on See You at the Pole. So remember See You at the Pole? Parents come and pray at the kids' school?
I did it when I was in high school.
No, I don't remember that. They did what? Parents come and pray at their kids' high schools?
School, yes.
So this is See You at the Library, where thousands of families are going to the public library to pray and to sing the national anthem and to read books of Christian virtue, like yours, like mine, like so many others. And we did it last year and had over 300 story hours in 46 states. Now, this year, we plan to 2x that. We've already got many more libraries and story hours.
Wait a minute now. Are you telling me that you made up all of that shit about being persecuted and that you can, in fact, go to libraries and read your stupid f***ing book? Is that what you're saying? So you're saying that there is no problem happening here then, right?
Hours set up on August 24th all across the nation in 50 states.
Wow.
So it's going to be an incredible day to hopefully set a Guinness World Record. The drag queens were recorded by Guinness World Record as having the largest drag story hour. We invited them to come to one of our events, which has thousands of them. And when you have 500 libraries simultaneously doing them, this makes it just a massive, massive national.
Like, is this even true that there was some Guinness Book of World Records entry for largest drag queen event or whatever? And what record is he trying to say? Is he saying that he's hosting this event by drag queens? They are reading his stupid little book? Everything that he's saying right now is mutually inconsistent and lies. It can't possibly be true simultaneously. And propaganda. That's it, all the way down. Just full of shit, constantly.
Movement. They haven't called us back. But that's okay. We're going to set the record.
Wait, I'm sorry. Who didn't call him back?
National movement.
Oh, Guinness didn't call him back, or Guinness Book of World Records, because they want to keep the drag queens at the top of the world record for drag queen story. Are you serious with this? Come on. God, this is absurd.
They haven't called us back. But that's okay. We're going to set the record anyway, and we know who will show up, and that's thousands and thousands of parents, grandparents who love God, who love America, and love their children.
Wow.
Totally.
Well, of course, the libraries won't call you back. I mean, you're such a bigot. How dare you sing the national anthem?
Well, he actually is a bigot. But for the record, I don't care if people read the national anthem. Go nuts. Read it till you're blue in the face if you want. That's not what anybody is complaining about. This is what I'm talking about when I say they twist things around to be something they're not. Trans people not trying to convince children to be trans in schools or libraries or anywhere else. It's not happening. And no one is complaining about him reading, a book or saying the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever the f*** with school kids. No one cares, okay? No one cares.
Well, there's many great librarians and libraries who want to call us back, but there's people at the American Library Association. Yeah. It's the robes. It's the ones with the badges and the certifications.
The robes, the badges, the certifications. Who? So he just said here, okay, we haven't been denied by basically any libraries, but there's a library deep state that you don't know about that is throwing a fit about. No, they haven't done anything, but they're secretly behind the scenes, when I'm not in earshot, or literally anybody else, complaining about it. I just know it. I don't have any evidence because they haven't said it around me or anybody else I know, but it's happening, I swear. That's what he's saying right now, for real. This is such a joke, dude, and people buy this.
That push the agenda from the top down. If you follow the money back, you'll figure out where all of this stuff
What money?
comes from, not as conspiracy, but as the way that culture generally works. People get greedy for money and power, and then they are able to push their ideas from the top.
Yeah, but see, the conspiracy is that this is happening through big library, that there's some deep state library organization that's like getting rich off of libraries? Like, I don't even understand. What's the conspiracy here? What's he even claiming?
Top down. So that's why you see what you see at the Olympics, at the opening ceremonies. That's why you see what you see at Target. That's why you see what you see at the libraries. Because
what are we seeing at Target, the libraries, or anywhere else? He stuck one example in there that was a famous outrage clickbait story about the Olympics and conflating libraries and schools or whatever the hell with the Olympics. There was a group out there who hosted the opening ceremony at the Olympics, right? Am I really not going to be able to like find just a normal way? Here's just like an example.
All right. But then there was instant controversy over an opening number featuring drag performers that some people said was a blasphemous take on Da Vinci's painting, The Last Supper. Now, organizers said...
Some people said? So it wasn't based on The Last Supper then, is what I'm hearing.
We're sorry, but, you know, the guy who actually put it all together said it was from the Feast of the Gods, which is a 17th century Dutch painting of the Greek Olympian gods, you know, the Olympian gods, because it's the Olympics.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that this is fabricated outrage. They're not going to show it. That's a shame. I understand that the IOC, the International Olympics Committee, I think is what it's called, is insane over copyright stuff. I really wish that I could see just a second, because I didn't even watch it. Here, is this it? No. Yeah, I think everyone is trying to stay within like copyright guidelines is why they're not just showing the thing. But anyway, you get the idea of what it looked like with these images. Compare this, which is just like a really creative, weird, interesting recreation of this old image of Olympic gods or whatever, right? It's odd. It's different, unique. For better or worse, you can at least accept that it's those things. Now compare it to what everybody else has been saying is probably the most interesting Olympic ceremony. Here, this is 2008. Yeah, this is Beijing. Like, that's cool, right? Look at this. They're doing they've got what appears to be like lit up drumsticks or whatever. That is awesome. But, you know, these two Olympic opening ceremonies, this one and the one based on like the Olympic gods or whatever, the fact that Kirk Cameron, Elizabeth Johnston, and everyone else is complaining that this one was weird and the one that we're watching here with the Chinese is really cool. It's kind of a microcosm of our political landscape, isn't it? It's uniform. Everything is the same. There's like no unique anything anywhere in this situation. Everything was orchestrated by one guy at the top, and everybody else is following the instructions of that one guy. Versus the new Olympic Games opener, which is like an odd, unique, interesting, strange ceremony, like an interesting, strange, like performance or whatever. People are being who they are and showing really weird, interesting stuff versus everybody is all uniform and centralized and top down, you know? It's a perfect illustration of Kirk Cameron and Elizabeth Johnston's worldview. These two are obsessed with uniformity and forcing everybody into the same little molds. And people on the left are more in favor of being unique and different and interesting. Fascinating.
Because everybody wants a culture that's based.
I'm sorry, let me just step back. Since he mentioned the Olympic Games and all that, I should probably just mention the fact that, like, there was famously an Australian breakdancer there that was like, you know, everyone's laughing about her now. The Australian government is calling it sexism. It was kind of ridiculous. Breakdancing can be fucking cool. But as far as I understand it, she was a fine breakdancer. It's just that the Olympic Games favor specific, like, technicalities, specific moves that encourage the breakdancers to not do anything like wowing, but kind of prove their prowess as, but kind of appeal to experts in breakdancing. Those are like the only people that would really understand what they just saw, basically. Other breakdancers tend to focus more on power moves, unlike her. So anyway, that, to my knowledge, that was really the issue. Not that she sucked so much as she's just like different than others, really. It's supposed to focus on different things. But anyway, I don't know. She did look completely ridiculous, for what that's worth. Yeah, as a former breakdancer, it was very impressive. Yeah, that was my understanding too. It just looks kind of ridiculous to like in the outside world, you know.
You see at the libraries, because everybody wants a culture that's based on a set of ideas that produces what's best for them. And
Right.
our founders in this country were people who had deep respect for the Bible, its principles, and Christianity, even.
They may have had deep respect for it, some of them, I suppose, but that doesn't mean that they believed in the erosion of separation of church and state. They absolutely did not believe in that. The founding fathers, they were ready to fight that to the death. They were opposed to that maybe more than anything, except for John Adams. That head would have melded church and state the moment he could, but that's neither here nor there. And don't get me started on John Adams, that ass, and his wife Abigail. They're terrible, but I'm not going down that road right now. Either way, I don't give a shit what the founding fathers believed. We live in a secular nation. They stood for secularism, so they're on my side. But I don't care if they did. We should not meld church and state inextricably. I'm reading a book right now, going to be released as an audiobook eventually on Audible and stuff, about the church in Germany in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. And it is a story of a complete lack of separation of church and state, like non-existent boundary between the two. It's controlled, state is controlled by the church. That's what it leads to. You know what it leads to really? Like when the Nazis took over, it was really a protest vote in the election leading up to it. Now, Hitler actually lost that election to Paul von Hindenburg, but von Hindenburg chose to appoint Hitler as his chancellor, basically putting him into the position of president effectively. Now, Hitler was a complete nutcase who was out for blood, who was looking for an excuse and the capability to murder a bunch of people. Now, I'm not convinced that, like, the modern-day Republican Party is looking for an excuse and capability to murder a bunch of people. A bunch of, like, American citizens. I don't think that. Hitler, in contrast, took over very, very quickly. It was, like, within the span of, like, a few months that it went from a democracy to an authoritarian regime. Even a few weeks, things started to change dramatically. From like April 1st to April 15th, the whole feel of the country was different from that point forward. So I'm not saying that we're going to have like a Hitler-like takeover of the United States, but the environment that spawned people like Hitler and his whole viewpoint toward democracy and society and immigrants, which were Jews at the time, that whole mindset, that nationalistic viewpoint is present here, just like it was in the 1920s in Germany. Same exact mindset. The only difference, really, fundamentally, between the United States and Germany in the 1920s and early 30s, before Hitler took over, is that there is separation of church and state. The church does not control what the government does right now, and vice versa. I mean, people are trying to erode it, of course, but right now on paper, it's still separate. If it weren't separate anymore, we would certainly see nationalistic extremism like the Nazis did in the 1920s.
Christianity, even those who are not devout Christians, you can look at Benjamin Franklin and others, they understood that Christianity would produce human flourishing for everybody. And
did he say John Adams? He's pretty much the only one. John Adams was. He was a complete nutcase. Literally every other person involved was trying to create a secular state. In fact, there were multiple drafts of the Constitution because John Adams kept putting religious shit in there, and they kept saying, John, stop it. This is supposed to be secular. What, you got gummy bears in your ears? What's going on? Why don't you understand secular? Do you know what that word means? So they kept scrapping it until they finally said, Get the fuck out of the room. I'm not allowing you anywhere near this piece of paper because I don't want to rewrite this shit like 16 more times. I don't know what they said, but they did eventually remove any religious shit from the Constitution completely. Anyway.
The idea was take the authority and the responsibility away from a king or a queen or an emperor or a dictator and put it in the hands of all the people. So now the people are co-kings, governing themselves.
No, what are you talking about? The people are co-kings. Does he understand democracy? Does he know what that is? Does he know how that works?
So how in the world are you going to do that? I mean, how do you make the rules? How do you make the laws?
Do you really not understand how democracy works?
Well, people need to have an internal sense of wanting to obey the laws, the eternal rules of right. And if you can get that embedded into their heart, downloaded into their mind, now you can have a country like America that is free politically, economically, educationally.
Because they'll do what you say. So you're telling me that there isn't actually freedom in the equation. You're not calling for freedom. You're saying that you want to make it so that everybody does what you say without having to have the laws because you've imposed it on them through culture. That's what he's saying right now. So you don't want freedom, actually. God damn it, Adams. Thomas Jefferson, probably. Yeah, pretty much. All right, let me see here. Let me write down some of this stuff. Kirk Cameron talks to Elizabeth Johnston, activist mommy. And this was released on... Oh, she's only got 11,000 subbies? I didn't know that. Interesting. August 13th, 2024. Okay. And then this timestamp's 8:50 or 8:30. I'll put down. Kirk Cameron says he wants to impose rules on people. Says democracy is stupid, basically.
Without going crazy and disintegrating into tyranny and chaos.
Into tyranny and chaos.
Because you have people who know how to govern themselves. So these are the principles that we're fighting for.
That's so fascinating that he would say such a thing. So he's calling for not democracy then. You know, I hear similar things from a guy named Joel Webbin. He's like an evangelical extremist who's like in favor of a dictatorship, full-blown dictatorship. He's said those words. He says, we're not going to get out of this by constitutioning harder. We have to abolish the Constitution and get, some dictator in there, hopefully for one generation, but you never know. That's what he says. No, we are getting out of this by constitutioning harder. The problem is people trying to erode the Constitution. That's the thing. Stop erasing the things in it. Like the first sentence of the First Amendment, for example. The Founding Fathers did not want church and state melding. It ended badly in Britain. That's why they fought a war over it, so that the church didn't so people could be free to do whatever they wanted, practice their religion. The Constitution is set up for people who want to live their lives however they want. It's set up for degenerates. He says Constitution is not set up to govern degenerates. No, that's exactly what it's for. Degeneracy should be allowed. It should, people should be able to live their lives how they want. That's like the whole basis of separation of church and state. My God.
So these are the principles that we're fighting for. These are the things that we want going forward. We are a republic. We're not a democracy. Our founders hated the idea of a democracy.
Are you shitting me right now? He's just openly calling to end democracy, I guess? Says democracy is stupid? No, we are a democracy, actually. We're a version of democracy called a democratic republic. That's still a democracy. Democracy's right in the name. So he's calling to end democracy. Says we shouldn't have it.
And that's why you see all these word games being played with love and
he's complaining about word games.
Inclusion and diversity and equity and democracy, all of that kind of stuff. And so we need to get back to teaching our kids these principles if we want them to have a good future.
Yes.
What principles? Ending democracy?
And Brave Books is doing that with the ecosystem, literary ecosystem that they are building. And
That's right.
I am honored to be
No, it isn't right.
one of their authors as well. Kirk, unfortunately, Drag Queen Story Hour is not the only nefarious thing happening in libraries today. Public schools and libraries are known for giving tons of shelf space to this thing that we all used to know as very innocent, and is called Scholastic books.
So putting books on their shelves, certain types of books on their shelves, is not innocent. It's like nefarious. And it's like an entire category of, but like Scholastic books, it's a company that produces books for kids. Like, she's not even complaining about some specific book that says some specific thing. She's complaining about a company being allowed to make books. Are you serious? Or to put them in like the library? Holy shit.
Yeah.
You have been doing a great job exposing Scholastic's agenda to sexualize our children. Tell us more about what Scholastic Books is doing and what we can do as parents to combat the sexualization of children.
Okay, look, again, I don't believe in the sexualization of kids. Obviously, nobody should believe in that. That's like evil and wrong and bad. No indoctrination for kids, none, period. That's not what's happening with like Scholastic books. The left isn't trying to sexualize anybody, okay? They're living their lives. This is fabricated outrage. Look at the shit-eating grin on his face. This is fabricated outrage to try to get people might lean left or even lean right in the center, trying to get them on their side. Wow, they're sexualizing kids? No, no one is doing that. And then they pick a target, aim and fire. Scholastic books, they're sexualizing the kids. How? How's anybody doing that? They're not.
Well, Elizabeth, there's so many things that we can talk about that are nefarious and wicked in the culture.
You catch that word, nefarious?
Sure. I don't want to give that.
That means like intentionally evil, setting out to do something that's bad knowingly and kind of secretively. He thinks that Scholastic books is nefarious? Tell me what you think about it in the comments. These people are insane. Quick interjection, this won't take long, I promise. I'd appreciate it if you watched to the end of the video, or at least a couple extra seconds, because YouTube bases its algorithm off of watch time. The more watch time a video has, the further the video will go. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I'm selling my book, Understanding Jehovah's Witnesses, 400 pages, and my second book, 100 Questions for Jehovah's Witnesses, which is about 80 pages. And you can find them both there on the website. Audio form, ebook form, whatever. It's about my experiences within the religion and the history of the religion generally. The 100 questions are intended to challenge a religious leader, so I'd appreciate it if you give it a read.